guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So if you do or don't know me, I'm just going to introduce myself here really quickly. But my name is Ruhi Parikh and I am an 18-year-old dystopian author, and today's video actually is going to be about one of my all-time favorite tropes that I, guilty as charged, have included in my own stories. And it is, as you've probably guessed by the title, but it is the enemies to lovers trope. Oh my god, I've literally been wanting to make a video on this topic for so long. I love the trope. I'll admit it, I love enemies to lovers. I feel like it's so cool to make two people who absolutely hate each other's guts just somehow grow a relationship between them. And I feel like you need a good a little bit of love and hate to kind of mix together to kind of even be able to put that question in mind. But overall, writing enemies to lovers is so fun, especially reading it is twice the fun. This video will be about how you can accomplish that and just diving through the trope itself and things to avoid, things that you might want to emphasize, and stuff like that. So yeah guys, let's just jump right in. First and foremost, there's a reason why enemies to lovers trope is so popular, and that's just because people love the angst and the unique perspective behind it. And granted, because enemies to lovers is being kind of popularized nowadays, it does become kind of redundant, and the reader itself starts to predict what the enemies to lovers trope is going to be, who is going to be between. It starts to get predictable after a certain amount of time, especially after familiarizing yourself with the trope. But there are certain ways to go about that, and just kind of establishing a unique way to go about it. So when you first of all, you surprise your readers, second of all, you intrigue them, and third of all, it's fun for you to write. So I'm here to just kind of help you go through with that, especially because like I mentioned, I have it in my own books, and I really want to make the enemies to lovers unique and not most other stories. I guess I'm just different like that. let's just jump right into it. So first and foremost, before you even start to go into any sort of relationship or interpersonal exchanges, you first have to establish the characters. And in order to establish the characters, you really have to focus on their personalities, also of course their looks and everything like that, but you also have to focus on their personalities and all they stand for. And it's whoever they are, you may want to consider them as polar opposites. No matter what, you want to make these people seem so unique in their own perspectives that the first thought the reader gets is there's no way these two people are gonna get together, because that's what you want to kind of show off in a way. You want to show off that these characters are such polar opposites and that they are bound to be enemies in a way. But the enemies part's already kind of getting established here, just by how their characters are being introduced, or in whatever way they're being introduced. You just have to really make them stand out in their own way. And while they also could be polar opposites, you can also kind of just dabble in some similar kind of beliefs or personality traits they have, just to complement each other. Because of course, if you want to establish the enemies to lovers relationship between two characters, you have to have at least one similar personality trait or kinks or hobbies between them, because people have to get along in some way. They can't just be completely opposite. There has to be something they bond over. For example, character number one could be a total jerk, and character number two could be a total sweetheart, but they bond over I don't know, skateboarding. I know that's a terrible example, but what I'm trying to say here is no matter how opposite they may seem, you just have that one thing for them to bond towards, and that can really help you kind of add in chemistry, which I will talk about later. And yeah, just establishing the similarities can really help, but you also do not want to force them down the reader's throat. You kind of want to make it subtle and let the reader develop for themselves. So later on the story, when the relationship starts to really pick up its pace, the reader starts to be wait, they have this in common, or this to kind of complement each other, or these flaws or these shortcomings, the other character can help with them, just these tiny things like that, just to kind of make it subtle, but don't type out loud oh yeah, they have this one thing in common only. No, keep it subtle, keep it to the point and succinct, and then in the end the reader should be able to establish it on their own and create that angsty feeling in there. Like the reader's just like, oh, I wonder how this is gonna go. So you got the characters established, you're good to go, and you're ready to move on to the next point of establishing this enemies to lovers storyline, which is, of course, establishing why the hell the characters hate each other. This part is where people seem to trip up the most, because people like don't really have like a complex reason why their characters hate each other. Like it's probably like something as stupid as like, oh, I hate the way his breath smells. Like, yeah, like that's obviously a reason to like not like, you know, someone, but it's not something to like create someone as like an enemy in the other character's eyes. So you have to create like a complex reason. Like it could be something like, oh, this person, I don't know, ran over my cat 30 years ago. Like that, I think, could be a pretty valid reason for hating someone. And yeah, just like some complex reasons why two characters might possibly hate each other. And in the end, you have to make sure that like, okay, while the hatred between each other might be like complex and like totally, you know, viable, but you have to make sure it's not like something as stupid as like bullying someone or like romanticizing, you know, not good things, such as like, you know, taunting someone for something they can't control, like disabilities, like, you know, body stuff like that. Like, don't do that. You have to make sure that like the hatred isn't on something that is under trauma or like irreversible or unforgivable things, because that just romanticizes, you know, bad stuff, and we don't want that to happen. So you have to keep it to like a good, friendly, but not also like too friendly level, like a little bit of competition, a little like maybe bad first impressions or like societal beliefs, like, you know, internal beliefs, stuff like that. Anything like especially itself will really advance the hatred towards two characters. And like, for example, in my book, the love interest in my book, he's like, you know, part of the upper class, and the main character in my book, she's in the lower class. And like in my book, like the society is divided in like from the poor and the rich, because it's based on like financial, you know, class divisions. So like already sets up like the angst, like just on their societal standings, like they're not seeing eye to eye, and like I have to be able to create that dynamic to bring them together somehow in some way. And like they already hate each other to begin with, which you will only understand if you read the book, if you have not. So yeah, I think you really have to like be able to mix that in together. Once a hatred is really established, you have to decide how you are gonna make them, you know, be able to get along with each other. Like, okay, like we get it, they're polar opposites, they hate each other's guts. Now how am I gonna make, you know, them somehow get along with each other, if anything? And I feel like the only way to make this happen is just like by being like playing God here and just like, you know, making the unforeseeable happen, which is making them spend time together, whether they like it or not. And I think that's like, you know, living in, you know, forced proximity with each other, or just like, you know, helping someone out, you know, with whether you have a choice or not. Like I feel like characters, like they're thrown into something that they don't want to be in, such as like spending time with someone you don't like at all. And it's like, I feel like you really have to, you know, add in that forced proximity aspect of a book, like just making two characters spend time with each other. I think that's like the golden stuff of like enemies to lovers. Like, yeah, like you're gonna have to make these people like each other, whether they like want to or not. So the only way I feel like to possibly advance that is through, you know, making them spend time together and really like forcing each other to get to know one another, because, you know, they have to. Like, they have no other choice. And yeah, maybe like a little bit of arguing or like a little bit of bantering back and forth can like really alleviate the situation and even create something that I will talk about in the next tip. Spending time together and really bantering and arguing your way through could lead to a little bit of tension, and that I think is like the number one thing readers and writers look forward to, is like that tension those two characters have. Like in forced proximity, they're arguing it out, they're bantering, they're like, you know, doing all these things back and forth. Like that tension really sets itself up, and I feel like sexual tension itself just adds itself into, because like if they're both attractive and they're both attracted to each other, like there's bound to be some physical attraction going on, if not sexual. And I feel like that's like really important to include, because like, yeah, while like there might not be emotionally attracted to each other, like maybe a little bit of physical, like external attraction itself will really up the ante and force themselves to be like, wow, this person isn't too bad to look at, you know? And then from there, that's when you really start to pick things up, because they're so attracted to each other, no matter how much they hate each other, because like, you know, the angst, the tension, it's all just building up slowly, and like the reader feels it, you as the writer feel it. So it's just like a really interesting dynamic to just kind of experiment with, and I'm all here for it. Once that tension's really established, that's when they start to struggle internally. It's like that internal struggle is just like, you know, the character going back and forth to themselves and being like, look, I don't like this person, like just basically convincing themselves that like, oh no, this person, no, I only think of them as a friend. Like the fact that I even think about them on a friend level is improvement itself. And I feel like, especially because if you're writing from first person point of view or dual point of view, like it really helps, because you get to dive into the character's mind and, you know, establish what that character feels of the other person, especially after spending so much time with them and that tension building up. They're like, okay, like they have like new opinions forming of this person, you know? So I feel like that really helps, like just like the reader connecting to the character, and the character here is thinking like, wait, this person's actually not that bad, but I don't want to admit that because, like, you know, ego and everything going on. So you really have to make sure that internal battle with them, internal battle just kind of subsides at some point, where at one point they're like, okay, yeah, fine, I like this person. They admit it to themselves, but even then you're gonna have to build it up, like the internal struggle, because that's just how enemies to lovers work. Like it's really bad in the beginning, but like interactions, tension, and just like internal realizations really, like, you know, speeds up the process and keeps it going. After that internal struggle starts to like really subside, that's where the involvement starts to come into play. And when the characters evolve, they become not only better individuals to others, but also to themselves, because they've realized some things working with the other person that they did not, with the other person they did not like at first. And it just like really brings in some internal, you know, development, character development, if you may call that. Like I think it's just like really interesting how enemies to lovers does not really improve a relationship between two people, but it also improves like your relationship within yourself, and I think that's pretty insane. So I feel like enemies to lovers, as it progresses, the characters really evolve within themselves and to the other person who they're currently feeling feelings toward. And this is like probably the perfect chance for the character to get their character arc, or like their redemption arc. Like they like really hit like, you know, character development, and the reader feels it, the writer feels it, like you feel, like everyone feels it, because it's like, it's just perfect moment for character development, for their redemption arc, for whatever they have done in the beginning, for making the other person hate them, vice versa. Like I feel like that just like calls for like a bunch of character development. I think that's pretty cool, because I am all in for character development. Oh, and now we've reached the bittersweet ending of an enemies to lovers story, which is them killing each other. Ha, no, I'm kidding. Kidding, guys. Don't make them do that. Actually, it's a confession of love. We reached it, guys. They finally admitted feelings for each other after, you know, after the hatred, after the tension, after the angst, after the character development. We finally reached it, guys. They've confessed their feelings for one another, and now they're living happily ever after. Or if you're writing a dystopian book, they're currently fighting for their lives while juggling a relationship. And hey, that's, you know, what's going on with my book right now. So yeah, that's an enemies to lovers storyline. Like I don't think I could break it down even more than that, because then it's just gonna get really boring. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Yeah, like I just love enemies to lovers trope. I think it's so unique, and how we've like really built it up, because like amongst like all other tropes, like yeah, the other tropes are good, but enemies to lovers, like it just gives you a completely different feeling. Like it just keeps you on your toes, and like I'm just here for it. I love enemies to lovers. Guilty as charged. Please subscribe, like, comment, whatever. Just, you know, a little bit of support would be great. And keep an eye out for the conversion arcs, any news on my TikTok, my Instagram, you know, just, you know, keep in touch. Definitely give my books, you know, a little peek, you know, read it. I think it's pretty great. And the sequel is coming out September 20th, so also keep an eye out for that. And pre-ordering information will be coming out soon. So, you know, busy. But yeah, guys, that's all my updates, and that's all I have to say now. But I hope, again, you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have an amazing life. Bye, guys!